You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hello and welcome to episode 330 of the Rusted Robot Podcast for Sunday, March 28th, 2021.
My name is Optimus Prime.
Hello, I am C-3PO Human Cyborg Relations.
I am Locutus of Borg.
You're like a machine underneath, right? But sort of alive outside?
I'm a cybernetic organism, living tissue over a metal endoskeleton.
I'm an android.
These aren't the droids we're looking for.
Counterfeit, facsimile, replica.
We need some sort of robot. Ah, crap! I'm some sort of robot.
As always, I'm your host, Sean, and with me this week is a special guest. It's not another Lonely Sean episode. It's our good friend, Renee, back in the saddle with us. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
Well, this is episode 330, Exhaustion Edition. And why might that be, you ask? That's because yesterday, as we're recording this, it's actually not Sunday, it's Saturday the 27th, but yesterday was Friday the 26th, Leonard Nimoy's 90th birthday. And what did we do? We picked up Nimoy, our new micro teacup Yorkie. Julie's daughter was super excited and woke us up at 3:30 in the morning. So it's appropriate that this is episode 330. So 330, Exhaustion Edition. So other than running on low fumes, I'm okay.
Well, you got a new puppy in your life. You got another little thing to care for and to nurture and grow and teach it to watch Star Trek.
That's the goal. Yep. He's already named after Leonard Nimoy, so that's a good start. Posted a couple videos on Facebook yesterday. One of them was Malika coming home because she didn't know about the thing. And we surprised her and we showed her and she immediately burst into tears. She was so excited. I posted a couple pictures of the dog on the Star Trek Facebook group, like a fan group. It's got like 150,000 people liking it. I did that last night and my phone has been blowing up with comments and notifications. And the last time I checked, it had like almost 1,200 likes.
Wow, you're like a social media butterfly at this point.
Yeah, if only I could get the same reaction for any episode of any podcast I've ever done. That would be amazing.
Well, maybe you should put a picture of Nimoy on your podcast. You know how you put your different background photos?
Yeah.
Put a picture of your new puppy every day that you do a podcast, and more people will at least see the picture and like it. Maybe they'll listen as well.
You never know. That is true.
I would also include, I think you should take a picture and say, first Tribble discovered found to have legs. Because it's the cutest, Nimoy is the cutest tiny ball of fur, so small, but little tiny legs sticking out.
Yes.
You could barely even see them.
It's true. Julie'd been wanting a teacup Yorkie for quite a while. We already have a 65-pound golden doodle named Daisy, and she's like, oh, I really want to get this other dog. I've wanted one for a long time. What do you think? I'm like, I don't know. I think because I always said the last thing I would ever do is get another dog. But then we went and looked at it, and how could I not fall in love immediately? And so yesterday we brought him home, picked him up, and I've been cuddling him to death, and he's been super cute. And then this morning I was choking on my breakfast, and I thought I was going to die. And then I was like, yep, getting a dog is the last thing I'll ever do. But luckily I didn't die because I've got a podcast to record.
For sure, you can't leave the listeners waiting for another episode of The Rusted Robot.
Definitely not. And they will have to wait next weekend. There won't be an episode because it's Easter. I'm taking that weekend off.
You can have one.
You'll allow it?
One weekend.
I appreciate that.
No problem.
Okay, good. All right. So let's get into some celebrity talk, some casting news, some trailer reviews. What do you think?
It sounds like a great idea. Let's go.
Okay. Do you want to start with the fun part where we open up with Celebrity Death of the Week?
Keep saying it. Are you a doctor?
He's dead, Chap.
I wouldn't say that's the fun part. It's rather quite sad. We had a couple great actors and actresses that we lost this week. Definitely going to impact some evening comedy shows that we've been watching that I think any fans of the 80s love. But I'll let you take away with that. Okay, so we lost George Seagal, Goldberg's star and Oscar nominee at the age of 87. He had a long career, which included playing Pops Solomon on the Goldbergs and garnering an Oscar nomination for supporting actor for Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. And he died this last Tuesday.
And apparently he passed away due to complications from bypass surgery. And just looking through the article here, he's been around at least since the 60s, worked with some of the top directors of the 60s and 70s, including Robert Altman, Mike Nichols, Paul Mazursky, and Sidney Lumet. He was known for his gently humorous everyman quality, and he often played an unlucky-in-love professional or a writer who gets in over his head. So the article actually goes on, and we could probably just do an episode just about this guy in general, but we won't. If any listeners want to find out more about him, they can go to our Facebook page and read everything in detail.
Absolutely.
And then later in the week, we lost Jessica Walter at the age of 80. And it tells us here she's an award-winning actress. Her career spanned 5 decades. She died in her sleep in New York City home on Wednesday the 24th. She took on numerous roles, but she's most well known for her hilarious turn as the Bluth matriarch Lucille in the beloved comedy Arrested Development, which I've never seen, but I believe you have.
I've seen parts of it. She's quite funny. She plays her role really well in that.
And she's also Archer's mother Mallory in the long-running animated series Archer,
which is absolutely hilarious. And if you haven't watched any of Archer, you need to make that a priority.
You know, I did watch most of the first season, but they're always yelling and screaming at each other, and I guess I just couldn't.
Well, that's the beauty of it. They're so dysfunctional. It's awesome.
Yeah, I wanted to like it, but I couldn't. Now it says here she had a memorable and acclaimed performance in Clint Eastwood's directorial debut, Play Misty for Me, a role that many still talk about years later. She also appeared in The Flamingo Kid, The Love Boat, Trapper John MD, Dinosaurs, Coach, and 90210. And apparently her final on-screen role came on an episode of American Housewife earlier this year.
I believe Trapper John MD is a spin-off from the MASH series when Trapper went back home. And then BJ Honeycutt took over for him, working with Hawkeye or Alan Alda in MASH.
Okay. So yeah, you're quite the MASH aficionado. You would know.
MASH is a great show. Another one I highly recommend you watch.
I watched it lots as a kid, but not in years. And then we have one more final celebrity death, which was reported earlier this morning. Beverly Cleary, who enthralled tens of millions of young readers with the adventures and mishaps of Henry Huggins and his dog Ribsy, the bratty Ramona Quimby and her older sister Beezus, and other residents of Klickitat Street, died on Thursday in Carmel, California, at the age of, get this, 104 years old. The death was announced by HarperCollins, her publisher, and it says, when Henry Huggins published in 1950, Miss Cleary, a librarian by trade, introduced a contemporary note into children's literature. In a humorous, lively style, she made compelling drama out of the everyday problems, small injustices, and perplexing mysteries, adults chief among them, that define middle-class American childhood. Did you ever read any of her work? I don't believe I have.
I probably read some back in elementary school.
Before we knew what it was?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Beverly Atlee Bunn was born April 12th, 1916 in McMinnville, Oregon. She spent her early childhood on the family farm in nearby Yamhill. Her father lost the farm when she was 6 and moved the family to Portland, where he found work as a bank security guard. And she described her childhood in the first volume of her memoirs, A Girl from Yamville, published in 1988. And the article actually goes on quite a bit. We don't have time for it here. But if you want to know more about your favorite childhood author, go to the Facebook page and look it up.
I think she presents a good challenge here, and I intend to take over that challenge. I'm going to try to live past 104 myself.
Yeah?
I think that's awesome. She had lived a very long, great life and accomplished many things in that time, so... it's definitely a goal of mine. I would like to supersede what she was able to accomplish.
I think you can.
I don't know if I'll write as many books, but who knows?
You never
She
know.
had a late start. Maybe I'll have a late start as well.
There you go. Okay, so what else have we got here? We've got Marvel news. Black Widow is going to be in theaters on July 9th. So what do you think about that?
That's a must-watch.
It was supposed to come out last May.
Yep.
It was then going to come out this May. Now it's coming out this July. I guess we'll see.
I think it'll come out. I think you're going to see, especially in the States, they've really ramped up their vaccination programs down there, and they're way ahead of a lot of countries, and they really want to get things open up. So I think you're going to see a big return of the the movie theater, and some of that you're going to see even coming up with the new Godzilla vs. Kong movie that's coming out in the next 2 weeks. Actually, it's next weekend, actually.
What is the day that it comes out?
I believe March 30th is the official date for North America.
Okay.
But it was, I know I'd mentioned in a previous podcast, it had an earlier date. That was the international release in China, to which it's already grossed $30 million since opening day.
Well, that's all right. That's a pretty decent chunk of change.
Very much so. It's more than Avatar grossed over there on the re-release.
Right. But that's okay because Avatar took the lead and they're winning. So that's all that matters.
Well, Godzilla's not out yet. Give it time.
Yeah, it could make $3 billion. Why not?
People want to get back to the show, they'll go see it, especially if they love it and they enjoy the effects.
You're not wrong.
I may go see it twice. We'll see.
I wouldn't be surprised. Since Godzilla is your favorite thing of all time, right?
It should be everybody's, really.
Well, yeah, I can't agree with you more. Oscar-winning actor will play Hespera. And which Oscar-winning actor is that? Well, it's Helen Mirren. She's joining the DC Extended Universe for Shazam! Fury of the Gods. She will play the villain Hespera, the daughter of Atlas, in the sequel to 2019's Shazam from New Line and Warner Brothers. Mirren joins fellow franchise newcomer Rachel Zegler, the star of Steven Spielberg's upcoming West Side Story. And sources say Mirren and Ziegler will play sisters who both may or may not be of ill intent. The Shazam sequel once again stars Zachary Levi as the adult version of teenager Billy Batson, who transforms into a superhero.
I'm Groot.
And I was trying to remember the other day, was it Zach Levi or was it Zach Braff? I was having a Zach moment. I'm like, which one is it? But no, it's Zach Levi from Scrubs. No, Zach Braff is from Scrubs?
No idea.
Now I'm confused. Yeah. Anyway, Zach Levi was from Chuck.
Chuck, yes.
That's what I'm thinking, yes. But because I watched those two shows at the same time when I had American Netflix. So they're the same person in my head. Tall, brown-haired guys with the name Zach. So there you go. So, yeah, does it say when this is coming out? The first Shazam opened April 2019 and earned $366 million globally.
So there's a nice little note in that article as well that New Line is developing the Black Adam movie, which will star Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and he's a classic Shazam antagonist. So my best guess here is in the new Shazam movie, you're going to probably have a cameo by him, probably an after credit or something.
That does seem to make a lot of sense. So we don't have any actual date as to when that's happening. But were we just talking about Black Adam?
We were.
Well, I got some Black Adam news for you. Pierce Brosnan is cast as Dr. Fate. Production on Black Adam is nearing its start date, and a major piece of the cast has been revealed as The Hollywood Reporter brings word that none other than Pierce Brosnan will appear as the hero Dr. Fate. A former James Bond star joins Dwayne Johnson as the titular anti-hero in the film alongside his fellow Justice Society members, Noah Centineo as Atom Smasher, Aldous Hodge as Hawkman, Quintessa Swindell as Cyclone, and Marwan Kenzari and Sarah Shahi in undisclosed roles. Okay. All these actor names actually sound like character names. It's kind of weird. Let's see. Filming on the movie is scheduled to begin in April in Atlanta, with Johnson teasing the start of it earlier this week. And it says, though a number of different versions of Dr. Fate have been featured in DC Comics before, Brosnan will take on the part of Kent Nelson, the original Dr. Fate, as seen in More Fun Comics and All-Star Comics. Wearing the cloak, amulet, and helmet of Naboo, Dr. Fate is a master of magic with countless abilities up his sleeve, including flight, strength, telepathy, flame spells, and countless other powers. There's limitless possibilities for the character in live action on the big screen, so director Wam Colette Cicera will have plenty to throw at the titular Black Adam. It was previously reported that DC and Warner Brothers had big plans for the Dr. Fate character, and here it is. I know nothing about these guys. What about you?
I know a little bit from comics I used to read as a kid, but it's going to be really interesting. Like, we're going to talk about it shortly there, but Suicide Squad, we got Black Adam, we got Shazam. DC is really hitting the movie market hard, and recently with the release of the Snyder Cut, which we may or may not see some sequels for, but it's good to see that they're taking a lot of the other characters that don't always get a lot of the screen time or the time they deserve to be up there, and take them and put them in the front. So it's going to be good to have. It's going to be like a DC renaissance. DC's been making movies very differently than Marvel.
Oh, yes.
Their approach is different. They have a lot more. They're both darker and more funny. They have a lot more comedy in them. So I think with these new movies coming out, it's just going to be a nice big rebirth for the DC universe.
It makes sense, and they could certainly use it. And just to tie up here, it says, Black Adam is blessed by magic with the powers equal to Superman, but the difference is he doesn't toe the mark or walk the line. He's a rebellious, one-of-a-kind superhero who will always do what's right for the people, but he does it his way. Truth and justice, the Black Adam way. So that looks like it could be some excitement and adventure upcoming.
I think they released some pictures a while back of Dwayne Johnson and Black Adam, his uniform.
Yeah.
Just to get a couple concepts going, but we'll wait and see what it's like, but I'm sure it's going to be awesome.
Oh, for sure. And do we have any other casting news while I'm scrolling through? No, I don't. But I do have some cool information for you. And what is that? Well, let's turn it right around on our head. And you watched Sesame Street as a kid?
Absolutely.
Well, guess what Sesame Street is doing? Introducing 2 new Black Muppets. And it says here, Sesame Street has a long history of inclusion and diversity amongst its cast. And the show's latest additions include 2 new Black Muppets named Wesley and his father, Elijah Walker. Wesley and Elijah are being introduced so that the show can talk about racial identity and what it's like to be black in America in a greater way. Topics that the show has touched on briefly, but never in such a focused manner. Wesley will be played by Bradley Freeman Jr., and he was Christmas shopping when he got the big email confirming his casting, though he initially thought they were sending a rejection email. He says, I had to read it over like 7 different times to make sure that I actually got the part. I say yes, and then I realized I didn't actually type anything, so I had to send a second email and say yes, and then texted. I was like, just making sure you know that I accepted this part. So apparently he was quite excited.
Yeah, for sure.
It's
a big deal for sure, and with everything that's going on lately, it's great to see news like this coming forward.
Oh, it's definitely needed for sure. And it says the pair will debut March 23rd, so since we're past that, I guess they already have. Sesame Workshop is shifting how they address race and racism on the show, and they'll do it in the way they have broached so many other weighty topics on the show, a method that allows children to comprehend the core message.
Awesome.
And that's fantastic. I watched so much Sesame Street as a kid. That's where I learned most of my upbringing stuff from, I think. That and Polka Dot Door and Today's Special and all those kid shows.
Well, we were lucky because not only did we get Sesame Street as a kid, we got one version called Canadian Sesame Street. Do you remember that? It was specifically tied to, it had all the same characters more or less, but it was tied to things that were happening in Canada or current in Canada at the time.
I don't recall this.
You don't recall that? You could probably find it on CBC.
Oh, and I probably did see it, but that's a long time ago. Oh yeah, don't forget Mr. Dressup and Mr. Rogers also raised us.
Absolutely.
Definitely. You like books?
I love books.
Who's your favorite author?
Brian Keene.
Tell us, listeners, about who Brian Keene is. I know who he is.
He's a Bram Stoker award-winning author. He writes a lot of horror books. He also did the comic series for The Last Zombie, I believe. His books are pretty interesting. He's got a really unique way of telling a story. He's very detail-oriented. If you're into anything horror-related, with lots of gore. He's done a lot of work with zombies, he's done witches, he's done other creatures. But what's really interesting is he's found a way to tie a lot of his books together in his own universe based on something he talks about called The Old Ones, which kind of reminds me of the Lovecraftian stuff with Cthulhu and everything like that. So he ties that all together. Usually it's like, it could only be like a little small part in a chapter, but he's had books completely dedicated to it as well.
Okay. Yeah, and you've lent me some of his books, and I've read a few.
Yeah, I think I lent you the Conqueror Worms with the giant worms and the...
Yeah, where the place was flooding and they had to go up the...
skyscraper?
Yes.
Yeah, so that had 2 things. That had a giant worm and it had another creature in the water as well.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've read those, but yeah. Well, did you ever read the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan?
I have read some of it back in early high school.
Okay. Well, about 20 years ago, my roommate at the time brought home a bunch of books. And I think he'd only written 9 up to that point. So that summer, that's what I did. I devoured 9 books that were probably 800 pages each. Just whipped through them. And then I had to wait like 10 years for the 10th book because he was in poor health and I couldn't get into it. but there's actually 14 books in the series, and I'm just going to read the description here. It says, Robert Jordan's beloved high fantasy series, The Wheel of Time, is coming to the screen. Finally, the first book, The Eye of the World, arrived on shelves in 1990, and now decades later, Amazon Prime Video is bringing the world of Rand al'Thor, Maitrim Culhone, Perrin Ibarra, and so many more to life. It's a rich story, dense with lore, magic, and about 1 million characters. The series contains 14 novels, with Brandon Sanderson completing the last 3 books after Jordan's passing. Adapting that much story is a challenge, and a TV series seems like the best way to approach it. And this article is actually shared on our Facebook page. So it says here, if you don't know what The Wheel of Time is all about, read this article. So there's a link into this article that you can find to get to that article. Essentially, it's a sprawling take on the Chosen One myth with adventure, romance, and kick-ass women wielding a type of magic. If you're ready to learn everything we know about the Wheel of Time TV series so far, keep reading. And basically they just say we've got 6 episode titles: Leave Taking, Shadows Waiting, A Place of Safety, The Dragon Reborn, Blood Calls Blood, and The Flame of Tar Valon. That sounds rather exciting. I would watch that. I have Amazon Prime. Who knows when it's actually going to come out, because they've been working on the Lord of the Rings TV show for like 5 years. And with COVID and all that stuff, no idea what's happening or when it's coming about. But
I think we'll see within the next year a large influx of new entertainment material coming out, especially, like I said, with the vaccines taking place, and the numbers are declining in some states down in the United States. There we do a lot of the filming of this stuff. It doesn't mention it here, but one thing I want to throw out is, did you ever remember reading the Dungeons and Dragons Dragonlance series?
You know, there were so many of those books. I must have read like 15 or 20 of them, but they were hard to find in series because I got them at the used bookstore all the time. And they were good.
That is something that they need to adapt. Whether they bring it into a movie form or do like a subscription service television series, that I think would knock everyone's socks off.
I think so too. Definitely. Yeah, because there's a lot of call for fantasy and sci-fi right now.
And Dungeons and Dragons in general, or D&D, is huge right now. It took off just before the pandemic. There was a big boom, and now there's online D&D that people are using to get by the social distancing issue. So I think it's Roll20 is one of them, and D&D Beyond. But people are just diving in and eating this stuff up now. With 5th edition, there's been so much material that's been released. Mm-hmm. It's really back at its prime. I don't know if it's bigger than it was in its heyday when it first came out there. I know the original D&D came out and was kind of a shaky start, but then when 2nd edition came out for advanced D&D, it exploded. And I think I was in late elementary school or early high school when that happened. And now with 5th edition, like we need this, we need to start seeing more of this content coming out, because I think people would like to see it translated to the big screen or small screen.
Well, yeah, I think you're right. Now to wrap up this article, the release date says Season 1 of The Wheel of Time should debut in 2021. It'll have 8 episodes. Amazon Prime Video hasn't announced a specific release date yet, though. The coronavirus pandemic shut production down in March 2020, but they already had 6 episodes in the can. They've since returned to film the final 2 episodes, and Amazon Prime Video has not officially greenlit Season 2, but showrunner Rafi Judkins has mentioned working on Season 2 with the writer's room.
Cool. Well, it's definitely one to look forward to.
Yep, so that'll be good. And speaking of Dungeons and Dragons and stuff, I played my first game back in 2015 with my, when we have regular times in the world, my regular co-host Josh, he introduced me to it. And I played with him and his wife and some other friends. And we used to play in the back room of Jump City Comic Books and Collectibles. Shameless plug alert. Haven't played in quite a while, but I always enjoyed it when we did.
Well, it's fun. It's a social gathering. It's a use of imagination, and if you got a good dungeon master, they just create a really interesting world for you to bring your character through and see what happens.
Exactly. And so if you haven't been to the Jump City Comic Book Store here in Timmins for your Dungeons and Dragons gear, definitely go there, 38 Pine Street North in the basement of the 101 Mall.
I also heard a good rumor that they have good Godzilla gear there, too. Plenty of comics, too.
Lots of comics, lots of action figures, you name it, and it's probably there.
If you get collectibles, that's the place to go.
That is definitely the place to go for comics and collectibles here in Timmins, Ontario, and all surrounding areas. I think now would be an appropriate time to play a promo for another podcast right here on the ESO Network.
Hey everyone, this is George Tripsis, co-host from the Metal Geeks podcast, along with Carrie the Metal Geek and Brutal Dave. Our show is where we bring the metal geek culture and heavy metal culture and mash it into the geek culture. Come listen to our show where we talk about movies, comic books, Disney stuff, and mostly about movies where I'm always right and Carrie's never right. Check us out at metalgeeks.net. You can catch us on all your earhole listening podcast devices.
I'm Carrie the Metal Geek, and I approve this message.
And that, my good friends, was the Metal Geeks podcast, which you may have heard the promo for earlier in the week when you listened to episode 195 of the Soul Forge podcast, the Celebrity Crush from Your Childhood episode, which Renee happened to be mentioned in.
It was a great episode, and I had lots of content to provide. I just wish I could have provided an audio segment like many of the other listeners did.
Yeah, it was quite the difficult episode to put together. It took me 2.5 hours to edit that. It would have taken longer if I had gone ahead and put in voice clips from some of the celebrities that were mentioned, because I was going to start going on YouTube and capturing clips, and I was like, this is going to take too long. I'll be exhausted. So I didn't. So it's not the perfect episode, but it's definitely decent and passable and a lot of fun. Metal Geeks Podcast. Check it out. All right, what do we got, Renee? What's left?
Well, we have a brand new trailer drop for The Suicide Squad, James Gunn's run at the DC trope.
That's true. Let's play the trailer for Suicide Squad 2. But before we do, if there's any kids around, just be aware that there's some colorful language in the trailer. It's not too bad, but you may not want them to hear it.
It is the R-Band trailer.
It is the R-Band trailer, yeah. So here we go.
You gotta be kidding me. You're gonna risk the entire mission for a mental defective dressed as a court jester.
This coming from a guy that wears a toilet seat on his head.
We don't leave one of our own behind.
Hopefully Harley's still alive.
No funny business, Colonel. These are dangerous people.
Team 2 is clear to go.
Fire up. 3, 2.
What are you guys doing?
What? We're here to save you.
You were gonna save me?
It was a really good plan, too.
Well, I can go back inside and you can still do it.
That's patronizing.
I'm so sorry. Harley Quinn.
Blood sport.
You know the deal. Successfully complete the mission, you get 10 years off your sentence. Times are hard. You fail to follow my orders in any way, and I detonate the explosive device in the base of your skull. Can do the job for free.
So this is the famous Suicide Squad.
Num num.
Any questions?
And?
Yes, that is your hand. Very good.
We're all gonna die.
I hope so.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Here's the deal. We fail the mission, you die.
If we find out any information you give us is false, you die.
If we find out you have personalized license plates, you die.
What? No.
If you cough without covering your mouth.
Harley, although that isn't an open invitation for you to cough without covering your mouth.
What's the plan?
How the hell am I supposed to know?
You're the leader. You're supposed to be decisive.
And I've decided that you should eat a big bag of dicks.
If this whole beach was completely covered in dicks, and somebody said I'd eat every dick until the beach was clean for liberty, I would say no problemo.
Why would someone put penises all over the beach?
Who knows why madmen do what they do?
This is suicide.
Well, that's kind of our thing.
Don't you worry, eh? I'm gonna get you out of here alive.
I'm going to get you out of here alive.
Oh my god! We've got a freaking kaiju up in this shit!
I don't wanna do your We love the rain. It's like angels are splooching all over us.
What do you think?
I think it looks like a lot of fun. I think they're definitely capturing some of the spirit from the first movie that made it a little lighthearted. And James Gunn, like anything he touches now turns to gold. And I can remember watching one of his earlier movies, Slither, it's just a comical horror movie, and he did a lot of practical effects. Looks like he's bringing a lot of that stuff forward with this movie as well.
Good, because I do enjoy a practical effect or two. Lots of humor, like you said. Amusing, funny moments, jokes, some lightheartedness, even though they're all infused with bombs in their head.
Yeah, it's kind of like being forced to go to work every day to get a paycheck and then come home and spend that paycheck.
Fun will now commence. Yeah, exactly right. But it looks like it's trying to redeem the Harley Quinn character a bit from the Birds of Prey movie.
I actually watched the Birds of Prey movie not that long ago.
And?
I think this movie is going to be better.
Can't be much worse.
She was okay, and I think the problem with the Birds of Prey movie is it started out okay, but then it quickly went downhill when she became like this fugitive on the run with the kid, and the jokes just didn't land properly, and the story started to fall apart. The action sequences I thought were fine, but I didn't really feel for the characters as much, and I didn't really appreciate the villain as much. I think Ian McGregor could have done a lot more with his character and the way he played it. So I think, like you said, this is going to be the redeemer for Harley Quinn. She's going to have a nice, strong cast behind her. Mm-hmm. She's got a great director and a great writer, and I think it's going to be an awesome movie.
Yep, and I'll go see that in the theater. I did see Birds of Prey in the theater only because it came out on Brother Robin's birthday and he made me go. It happened to be a Friday night, so of course I fell asleep halfway through it, but I think that might have been a blessing in disguise.
Perhaps, but that's always the worst when you finally get to go to a show and see it and then you fall asleep at the show, because theaters aren't cheap.
No, they're not. But I couldn't stay awake for it.
Was it a Friday night?
It was a Friday night, and that was the problem.
Yeah.
I can't do...
You never learned your lesson.
I know, but I didn't want to see it anyway, but he was making me. I said, okay, I'll go, but I'm going to fall asleep probably. And I fell asleep during the heavy action sequences where it was the most loud.
Okay, well, if you like black and white movies, I see there's a new remake coming out that will probably be in color.
Most likely. I would think so. Yeah, because the creature from the Black Lagoon, right?
That's right, and that's one of my favorites from the original Universal Monsters. The creature from the Black Lagoon had a lot of interesting messages buried within it in the original black and white movie. Spawned 2 sequels. What we got here for the new one?
Well, it says Universal Pictures has been considering remaking the 1954 classic for over 30 years. Writers and directors like Jack Arnold, the director of the original film, Nigel Neely, John Carpenter, Ivan Reitman, Guillermo del Toro, Gary Ross, son of one of the original writers, Breck Eisner, Dave Somebody, and Carl Eric Rinch, Jeff Pinker, and Will Bean have all made attempts to bring the Gill Man back to the screen, and at times the project has gotten so close to happening that the creature design was prepared and sets were built. As far as we know, there's no creature remake in development at Universal right now, which is probably for the best, since the most recent script written for the project involved a rocket launcher fight in the jungle, and the Gill Man being willingly recruited to participate in lab work by Dr. Jekyll. But if Universal does decide to move forward with a new version, there's a creative team who might be interested. Speaking with comicbook.com, special effects artist Greg Nicotero, who has also directed many episodes of The Walking Dead and runs Shudder's Creepshow series, revealed that he and Robert Rodriguez have discussed remaking Creature from the Black Lagoon together. And Nicotero said, I think for any creature, monster kid, Creature from the Black Lagoon is the quintessential monster movie. I think Robert Rodriguez and I always talk about, like, hey man, maybe we should co-direct a Creature from the Black Lagoon movie, because he and I have identical tastes. We love Jaws, we love The Thing, we love Escape from New York and Blade Runner. We toy with the idea of, like, wouldn't it be cool if we remade Creature from the Black Lagoon? And I know they've been trying to do it forever, but for me, that's the quintessential Universal monster movie. We don't know if it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, but it could happen.
Well, I think he's got good taste, and I think the two of them would definitely bring a really interesting portrayal of the creature forward. I would like to see something dark, gritty, not much comedy, if any. I would like it to be like a true horror with the creature and really elaborate on this whole fear of what's under the water. And another little quick tidbit, they talked about how the remake almost happened a few times. The late Bill Paxton was tied to star in one of the remakes.
Right.
Way way before he passed. But again, Universal, something fell apart and the movie never got made. But I do remember seeing an article on that, and I think Bill Paxton, it would have brought a really interesting aspect to it, and it kind of makes me think of like Brendan Fraser in The Mummy. So I think if he was in it, it would have been a great movie, but it would have brought that comical part forward, I think, a little bit. But who knows? Bill Paxton had a large array of acting, and he could have been very serious. He could have been comical. It could have been all kinds of things. I don't know if you ever saw him. He was in Frailty.
I'm not sure I saw that.
Excellent movie. You should watch it. It's a very dark movie, and his character in that is definitely one of the scary ones I've seen him play.
He's Game Over Man, right?
He is Game Over Man from Aliens.
Yes.
He was also in Predator 2, and he was in The Terminator as a punk. He's the only person to fight an alien, a Terminator,
and a Predator, and get killed by all of them.
And got killed by every single one of them.
Yes.
So, we do have some interesting re-release news coming up.
We do.
Is there any video game lovers or book readers out there about video games?
Well, if they listen to this podcast, then guaranteed they are. Looks like this article says, 2020 is sure to be remembered for an array of different reasons, but for fans of movies and television, it also brought some unexpected milestones. Among those were the 10-year anniversary of the release of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, Edgar Wright's beloved adaptation of the graphic novel series. The film's cast and crew were only able to reunite virtually to celebrate the film's anniversary last year, but it sounds like die-hard Scott Pilgrim fans will soon have another chance to celebrate. On Wednesday, Wright and Dolby Cinema announced a limited theatrical re-release of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, which will play in Dolby Cinema theaters throughout the U.S. for only 1 week. The re-release will bring Pilgrim back to theaters in an unexpected way, as it has been reimagined for Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos, something that Wright had previously teased on social media last year. To celebrate, Wright released a brand new trailer for the film on his Twitter account, as well as an epic exclusive new poster, which does look epic and exclusive. It says here, it was designed for the big screen and for the best sound systems. To be able to see it with the best specs is obviously any filmmaker's dream. You want people to see it as good as it could possibly be, and I suspect that if you're a fan of the movie, you're going to get such a kick out of seeing it like this. And the writer of the article says, this comes after multiple members of the film's cast and crew had addressed the recent anniversary, looking for a good excuse to get the band and the fandom back together. So sometime in April, for a week in the U.S., so that won't help us here because the borders are closed.
That's okay. I've got a Blu-ray of this. This is a great film. I love the movie. The video game tie-in is interesting. I think it was just actually re-released not that long ago as well. And then, of course, you have the graphic novel. So if you're a fan of Scott Pilgrim, maybe we'll see some new Scott Pilgrim merch coming out soon. If you're lucky and you're in the States, go ahead and go watch it. Tell us what you think with the new Dolby Atmos sound effects and how it looks on the big screen. And let us know at the Rusted Robot. Do we have an email address, right?
As a matter of fact, we do. They could send their review either in written form or an MP3 recording to therustedrobot@gmail.com.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's awesome. I also own it on Blu-ray and watch it occasionally from time to time.
Oh, it's just such a fun movie. I love the special effects. I love all the NES style graphics that come up throughout it, and the theming of it, and
Mary Elizabeth Winstead is not hard to look at either.
No, she's not. I think all the characters definitely they bring a lot of fun to the movie.
They do, and it's got Captain America himself in it as well.
Absolutely.
So there you go. Oh, and Superman Returns is in there too.
I think
Brandon Routh and Chris Evans. Yes,
correct.
Yeah. So that's
before they were huge.
Exactly. Okay, let's see. We have one more trailer. Did we play this one already?
We did the Suicide Squad trailer, but there was a really interesting Assassin trailer that we had talked about that's coming out. And it's got Anthony Hopkins in it.
And not only that, it's got Christopher Pike himself, Anson Mount.
I believe that's Captain Christopher Pike.
You're correct. Yes. Let me just scroll down here. While we're waiting for the article to load up, I'll just play the trailer.
This is a one-off.
It's a short time frame. Let me be crystal clear.
For this fee, it is delicate.
Special outcome demanded by client.
Call me when it's done.
You're a professional, an expert devoted to timing and precision. You keep your tools in pristine condition. You make precise plans. But there's always events you can't control.
Collateral damage. It happens. You know that. Some of us will hear those cries of anguish and horror for all eternity.
I know what you want.
And what's that?
Maybe something to eat instead.
What do you want?
Something was offered by the deputy.
It's really simple when you think about it. Kill or be killed.
You know the rules. Do not rush. Do not hesitate. Do not get distracted.
Something on your mind?
I had one last loose end.
Loose end?
Something personal.
We're killing machines. It's what we do.
Tell me who sent you.
And now you're just catching on.
Go back a long way. Do not put me in a bad position.
When your profession is assassination, nothing can be left to chance. You have to be meticulous, calculating, and cold, a veritable virtuoso in your field. In director Nick Stagliano's noir thriller, The Virtuoso, Anson Mount plays a haunted hitman looking to set things right. Mount, who sci-fi fans recently adored on Star Trek Discovery, so much so that he's now headlining the upcoming Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and he plays a professional killer who accepts an odd assignment from his menacing mentor, played by none other than Oscar winner Anthony Hopkins. It's got Abby Cornish, Eddie Marsan, David Morse, Richard Brake, and Diora Baird. It says, Danger, Deception, and Murder collide in The Virtuoso, which releases to digital, on demand, and in limited theatrical release on April 30th. There's quite a bit more in the article that I don't feel like reading. I don't want to give any spoilers away, but it does look like a lot of fun. It's not specifically sci-fi, but it's got Anson Mount, Captain Pike, and it's got Anthony Hopkins, who played Odin in the Thor movies, so it's genre. It's got the cred.
Just to kind of be warned, I know we played the trailer already, but I found the trailer gives away too much of the story for this one. I don't think I've seen the whole movie, but I think I've seen enough to know that how it's going to go.
What is your prediction?
I'm not going to give any predictions because I don't want to ruin it for anybody who didn't pick up on all the cues in the trailer, but I just think they need to start making trailers like they used to back in the old day, where it doesn't give away everything. And with that, I want to talk about the retro recall of the week.
We should definitely do that.
So, my pick this week for the retro recall is was it 1998? Yes, 1998 Lost in Space movie.
If you're loving this podcast, you should tell a friend about it.
Spread the word about podcasts you think they would enjoy. There's something for everyone, from entertainment and lifestyle
to news and politics
and more. Share it on social media.
Believe it or not, some people don't know how great podcasts are,
or even how to find and listen to them.
You can help change that with a click. Tell your friends about your favorite podcast.
Thanks for spreading the word.
We were recording along the lines. It was fine, and then my battery died, so we talked for about 20 minutes. So we'll try to recapture the magic and the glory of everything that we were just talking about. But we were wrapping up on Lost in Space, and we did find that apparently you can watch it to stream it on either HBO Max or Amazon Prime.
Yeah, and I think the conversation, we were just talking about how the trailer shows a lot of fun stuff happening in the movie, but it doesn't give away the story or the plot. Like, you have no idea what's really happening with the family. You just know that they're in space and they're going to run into trouble. Unlike that Virtuoso trailer where it just feels like you kind of know where it's going to go. And the people he's meeting, you kind of don't trust them, even though like he's trying to trust them in the show.
That's right. So, yeah. So are you due for a rewatch on Lost in Space 1998?
Absolutely. And I definitely want to, I think I've got the bug to watch it because I really want to see season 3 of Lost in Space on Netflix.
Yes, I can't wait for that. It's supposed to show up sometime in 2021, the third and final season. I really enjoyed that show.
The cliffhanger.
Yeah.
They find the other ship.
And doesn't it take off? Something takes off? Is that right? Am I remembering right?
Well, there's a ship full of enemy robots that takes off as well.
Right.
If you haven't watched it, go back and rewatch right from season 1. It's a solid show. The Robinsons, all the characters are casted perfectly.
I liked that original
Will Robinson?
Yes.
Danger, don't forget my name, Will Robinson.
I told you I was tired. Yes. Billy Mummy.
Bill Mummy, yes.
Yes, he had a small part in the remake. I don't know if he was in the 1998 film, though.
I think he did have a cameo there. I think it might have been on the station before they took off.
Okay.
But I actually have the original TV series on Blu-ray.
Oh, yeah?
And I haven't watched the Blu-ray set, but I have watched it, the series. I think I've watched it at least 3 times in my life. Most of the episodes. It's such a fun show. Dr. Smith, his character, just the robot. There's so many fun things that they deal with, and that's got that whole campy 50s, 60s vibe to it. So.
It certainly does. I know I've seen some episodes. I don't think I've ever watched it in any specific order. I know my mom used to like it when she was a kid, and I know that in previous episodes of this podcast, we used to be heavily robot-centric, and we would do all the robot profiles. And I believe whoever made the robot for Forbidden Planet also made the robot for Lost in Space.
And I think he had a cameo on one of the Lost in Space episodes.
I think so.
Robbie the Robot?
I think Robbie the Robot was in an episode.
Yeah.
He showed up at a lot of different places throughout the decades.
He's actually, I was watching the history of Tom Savini on Shudder. He owns the Robbie the Robot.
That's
in his house.
That's awesome. I want one too.
Yeah. Well, who wouldn't?
Right? Yes. Oh, did you hear about the Voyager documentary crowdfunding?
It's called crowdfunding?
Well, they're doing an Indiegogo.
Okay.
So that they can have just like they did the What We Leave Behind DS9.
I have yet to see that one yet.
Me too. I haven't seen it yet either. Oh, right on time. There's the dog. Not the new dog, the old dog. Coming to say hello and make noise for the camera.
Or the microphone.
That's what I meant to say. Okay, you can go now. Bye. We'll see you after. Really? You never do that. But okay. What was I talking about?
You have a talking dog? You're talking about the crowdfunding Voyager documentary.
Oh, yes, right. They're reaching all their goals, and they're almost up to 1 million if they aren't already. I haven't checked in a couple days. But you can get Janeway coffee mugs and DVDs and Blu-rays and all kinds of different things for your support. And there's going to be some HD footage if they reach their $1 million goal.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
Voyager was good. I enjoyed it for what it was. It felt like a kind of a continuation of Next Gen with the same kind of technology.
Yes.
But the characters I found didn't always have the same feel.
No, definitely not.
And the stories, they were episodic, which was nice, but we knew that the main goal was to get them back home.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and it's my least favorite of the classic 5 original Star Treks. But my other co-hosts, Josh and Kitty, it's their favorite.
On the other hand, I would love to see a documentary on Enterprise.
Yes.
That was something I thought was a very bold move back in the day, trying to come up with something that took place before the original Star Trek era.
Exactly. And I think that would be wonderful.
Captain Archer would be proud.
Okay, so I think there's just a couple last things to talk about. We have Keanu Reeves. We all like Keanu Reeves.
Whoa.
Yeah, exactly. So he's bringing Berserker comic to Netflix as live-action movie and then an anime series. So just to read the fun article here, it says, Keanu Reeves never stops. My man has been working in Hollywood since the early 80s, skyrocketed to stardom with the first of 3 Bill and Ted movies, then became the go-to action movie star with Point Break, Speed, and The Matrix. Before re-emerging this decade with the John Wick flicks. Like The Matrix, there's a 4th Wick movie on the way, and now Reeves has lined up another badass project. But this one's different. It's based on a comic book he wrote himself. According to a tweet, it says, exciting news! Netflix is developing a live-action film and follow-up anime series based on Keanu Reeves' Berserker, a brutally epic saga about an immortal warrior's 80,000-year fight through the ages. Reeves will produce and star in the film and voice the anime. What do you think about that?
I haven't read the comic, but I'm getting a lot of Highlander vibes from this.
Yeah, a little bit. It does say the comic is a limited 12-edition series, but that's not going to be the end of the story. According to Variety, Reeves has landed a deal with Netflix to develop Berserker into the 2 separate projects, first a live action and then an anime. And other than that, no word yet on when it's going to hit Netflix. Matrix 4 is due this fall. John Wick 4 is set to begin filming soon. So who knows? But
I actually just saw John Wick 3 with my wife about a month ago.
Oh, yes?
It was a non-stop barrage of watching Keanu kill people in several different ways.
Agreed. Yes, I did see that in the theater, and it was almost too much for me, and I love my bloody violence.
Well, I just felt like the story was very thin, but the action was over the top. Awesome.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was amazing.
It's like he took a story for one movie and stretched it over 3, and it just... They added filler if we're just going to blow their mind with how we're going to have them beat up and get beaten up and fight everyone.
That's exactly right.
And now we have a 4th one to look forward to. So hopefully that'll tie the story together a little bit better and still give us the action we've come to know and love.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. Okay, so...
Did I tell you the awesome news?
No.
I've been collecting these arcade 1-up arcade machines in my basement. I've got Rampage, Mortal Kombat, Miss Pac-Man, and one of my personal favorites, Star Wars, the arcade game. Ooh. Who doesn't love flying around shooting TIE fighters?
Right.
I also just got a pinball machine.
Like a classic pinball?
It's classic pinball, but it's arcade 1-up, so it's about a third of the size, which is great because I don't have a whole lot of room to store all this stuff in.
Yeah.
So I'm really buzzing on the whole arcade stuff right now, and it just brings back such great memories from the 80s. Do you remember that movie with the kid in the arcade machine?
I do. Are you talking about Tron?
That was a great movie. But no, it wasn't Tron. He didn't get pulled into the arcade. He actually beat the game and ended up with a brand new job because of it.
Oh, then you're got to be talking about The Last Starfighter.
The Last Starfighter.
1984, starring Lance Guest.
That is the one.
Yeah, of course. That's one of my favorite movies of that era.
Well, Last Starfighter is just a great movie, and there's been a little bit of buzz flying around the internet because of it. Did you see it?
Funny that you brought that up. In fact, I shared it on our Facebook page.
That's probably where I saw it.
More than likely. So it says here, fans of The Last Starfighter have long dreamed what a sequel to that movie would be, and today they find out. You're excited, Daisy, I know. Gary Whitta, writer of The Book of Eli and Rogue One, has been working with Last Starfighter writer Jonathan Betuel on bringing the 1984 classic back to life for years. Today, he hopped on his Twitch stream to say the film is closer than it's ever been to fruition. It's right on the 1-yard line, he said, and he believes it'll happen.
That is so close to a touchdown. That just means that they just got to get it in front of the camera.
That's right. Get that basketball into the hockey net.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. So to help cross that line, Whitta also revealed the Sizzle Reel that he and Betuel and the others put together. And as they've said before, this wouldn't be a straight remake of the original movie. It's a sequel that keeps the original film in canon, but passes the torch to a new generation, much like Star Wars Force Awakens did. And in the article that I shared on the Facebook group for all you lovely listeners out there, the Sizzle Reel is here. I'm not going to play it because it's mostly music and images.
Oh, you have to watch it. You can't just... There's music in the background, but you have to watch it to really fully enjoy what they've put together for the concept art.
It'll give you the feels.
You're going to get the feels, the chills, the everything.
And they call it The Last Starfighters. And it says here, the trailer doesn't tell us much, but we do see there's some new conflict. It goes back to Earth. We assume Alex Rogan is still around. He has to recruit some new starfighters to join him in defending the galaxy. But that's purely speculation. Whitta didn't reveal many actual details, though he did explain how he and Betuel teamed up with all these people to make this thing. We've also got...
they brought back the original composer.
The original composer, and he collaborated with a new composer. So that's pretty cool. And the guy who wrote the article says, The Last Starfighter is one of my favorite films ever, and seeing it is my first memory as a human. Watching that reel brought back so much nostalgia and hope that one day I'll finally get to see this movie. What did you think of it? And that's a question for our listeners. Did you see The Last Starfighter? Have you ever heard of it? Did you watch it incessantly? Did you hate it? What are your thoughts on Last Starfighter? TheRustedRobot@gmail.com. Let us know.
I think it was last summer I introduced all 3 of my children to it,
yeah,
and they loved it.
Of course.
They were a little bit, my youngest, they were a little bit, I think they were 10 at the time. They were a little bit put off by the bounty hunter, just because he could be a little scary, but he's an alien. He's meant to look different. And but other than that, like the movie, they love the idea of playing the video game and then ending up in space and defending the whole galaxy against this alien army race that's looking to destroy.
Yeah, and... I don't know. It's just so good that you owe it to yourself to watch the thing.
Yeah, I think for me, it's the perfect summer movie to watch. And I wish they would bring it back to the big screen.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Maybe that's something we should do. I know a guy who knows people at the cinema. If we can get them to bring back a classic movie of the month, that'd be awesome.
That would be awesome.
I would pay extra to see that. I would pay $15 to go watch that in the big screen. Maybe 20.
Really? That much?
Yeah, just to see it on the big screen. I think it would be awesome.
Because I know for a fact I didn't see it on the big screen when I was a kid.
Oh, me neither. I was way too young.
I was 8.
Well, you know what? I would have probably saw it on the big screen then. I have no recollection of it.
But anyway, I think this was a good spot to end the show. But I do appreciate you coming by and helping me out.
Well, we forgot to talk about the funniest part of the whole concept art.
No, we didn't forget. It just didn't record the first time. Haha. Okay, so when we were watching the Sizzle Reel, I watched it a few days ago. And there's a scene from it, and it's awesome. And I screenshotted it on my phone to save it for later. And 2 or 3 days later, I'm scrolling through Facebook, and I'm looking through Renee's profile. And he has the exact same thing screenshotted from the Sizzle Reel on his Facebook. And so I think we're going to read it now in dramatic fashion.
Yeah, so it's actually right at the end of the Sizzle Reel, and it's a quote directly from the original script between Alex and Centauri. So I'll be Alex.
I'll be Centauri.
Listen, Centauri, I'm not any of those guys. I'm a kid from a trailer park.
If that's what you think, then that's all you'll ever be.
Hollywood, we're waiting for you to call us. We're ready to be in the movie.
Yes, we are. That's right. So yeah, exciting news. Can't wait. I wish we had our other 20 minutes of recording because I think that was a better flow. But I think we did a reconstruction not too bad.
As I say in the Dark Crystal, I think we captured the essence of what we originally said.
There you go. Now, I must prepare myself to watch Star Trek The Next Generation Season 7, Episode 11, Parallels, because I have a guest spot on the Battle Bridge podcast later today.
Oh, that sounds great. What is the Battle Bridge podcast all about?
Well, that is a Star Trek The Next Generation review podcast. It's been going, I'm going to say strong, for the last 7 or 8 years. They originally planned to get everything out within 2 to 3 years, but because of scheduling conflicts and whatnot, they haven't been able to. Lou from Nebraska and James from London, plus guests from all around the world. So, Battle Bridge podcast. Lots of fun.
Awesome. So, do you know when your episode of that will be out?
Couldn't tell you.
Awesome.
No idea.
But you're going to be on it, and you're going to be talking about what I think is probably one of your favorite episodes.
Parallels?
Yeah.
That is my all-time favorite Star Trek episode of ever.
Of all Star Trek?
All Star Trek in any universe.
Wow. Well, then it's good they're going to have you on. You're going to bring all that passion and love of that show, especially that episode, to the podcast.
It's going to be their only episode filled with so much gravitas.
You're going to own it.
Yes, I will.
Are you going to wear your uniform to be prepared?
Probably not.
Oh. At least put a pip on.
I just might. Okay. All right, so to wrap up, I just want our listeners to check out the website for the podcast, which is therustedrobot.podbean.com, because all of our archives are on there, plus all of the social media links, plus let's see, there's recent tweets and all kinds of different things. But I want to direct your attention to the right side of the page where it says support me on Ko-fi. That means you can support us financially with a $3 donation for coffee or hosting fees or whatever. If you appreciate the show and you have some extra cash laying around, give it to me. I could use it. And next link is the Stitcher Radio Network. There's a link to review us on iTunes. I've got a link for Tel Evitzer's robot art. That's the robots that this Tel Evitzer guy made, and he allowed us to use them. So there you go. There's a link to get to the Facebook group for Rusted Robot. There's our YouTube channel, which you all should be checking out. There's the Twitter. There's some guest spots from previous podcasts that we have been on before.
I'm just looking now. You clearly have been on the Battle Bridge before.
Yes, as a matter of fact, several times. This is probably going to be number 15 or 20.
Wow.
Yeah. And what else we got? We got our Tumblr thing, which I never go on. And we've got the Patreon support, because I do have a Patreon that I've never used. So there's that.
I think there's one thing that's really important that you're missing off of the Rusted Robot webpage, and you need to scroll right back to the top and look at the top left. You are almost at 75,000 downloads.
That is true. That is true. I'm at currently 74,183. And I actually saw in my Facebook memories this morning, 2 years ago, I was at exactly 60,000. So in 2 years, I've increased by 14,000 and change.
Well, I think it would be awesome if we could hit 75,000 before the summer.
That would be amazing.
Tell your friends to listen to the Rusted Robot podcast. Get us out there, and then they can provide us their feedback to make the show even better.
And more importantly, share the links on all of your social media so the word gets out there. Because I'm the only guy who does any of that stuff, and I need your help. Please, Commander, we need your help. That's a horrible impression of Galaxy Quest and the Thermians.
I'm just a guy.
You're just a guy?
Just a guy.
Standing in front of a girl?
Yep.
How's the rest of that go? I don't know. We're going to move right along and finish this show. So, listeners, thanks for coming by. Hope you were thoroughly entertained. Remember, no episode next week because it's Easter and I won't be in town. But until next time, do all the things, share all the stuff, review all the places. And remember, wise men say forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for late pizza. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Rusted Robot Podcast. Your support is greatly appreciated, and we hope you'll tune in again next time. Remember that you can visit therustedrobot.podbean.com for all of our social media links, and don't forget to share the show with everyone you know. The Rusted Robot Podcast is your best source for geek-style pop culture news.
I could do this all day.
I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Groovy.
Hello, my name is Nick, and this is Arrow in the Head's Killer Guide to Horror. Let's be honest, I'm afraid of a lot of things. The jungle is one of them. Also, water. I know, I'm afraid to take a shower. Anyway, combine those two fears and you get... Well, I don't know what you get, actually.
It's amazing. It's incredible.
Several years ago, however, a group of scientists set out to a remote part of the Amazon in order to figure that out. What they discovered was the last surviving creature of an amphibious humanoid species with a taste for blood. Gillman, manfish, the creature, you can call it what you want. Between its superhuman strength, webbed hands, giant claws, and tough scaly skin that make it super hard to kill, I call it a scary motherfucker. The creature also developed an attraction to the expedition's only female member, and for some reason was really obsessed with kidnapping. I mean, I get it. Well, the attraction part, not the kidnapping.
Hey! You got it! You got it!
Let's just say this happened more than 60 years ago, and I still don't think society's ready for an interspecies relationship. And I'm pretty open-minded, but it's just the world we live in. Plus, let's be honest, we've got bigger issues. Like, how do you destroy this thing? Rocks? No. Knife? Stabbing doesn't seem to be very effective. Bullets! Bullets kill just about everything.
No more. Let him go.
Or do they? The Gillman has come back not once, but on 2 separate occasions. After surviving the encounter on the Black Lagoon, the creature was brought back to Florida to be studied by scientists, including this one that looks awfully familiar.
Are you sure you fed them all this morning?
Sure, I always feed them. How'd he get in here?
The creature eventually escaped, found another girl to capture, and was once again riddled with bullets. The second time he came back, the Gillman was burned so bad, his gills and scales fell off, revealing a human skin underneath.
There it is, Doctor.
Hey, take the gill off the Gillman and you're left with just a man, I guess. That's when somebody had the bright idea to integrate him into normal society. And also frame him for murder. It's getting weird. Lucky for all of us, he was able to escape back into the ocean, and no one has seen or heard from the Gill Man since. But I don't know. Something tells me his reign of terror isn't quite over.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.